So I played volleyball for about 4 years, and at the time I felt that it was the most important thing in my life. Despite of this, I still very often struggled with being able to stay motivated. I didn't feel like going to trainings, and I just didn't feel like I could put the same amount of effort into the sports that I once did. And in the end, when I decided to quit playing volleyball, my lack of motivation was one of the main reasons for doing so. The truth is, most, if not all people have struggled with amotivation at least one point in their lives. Amotivation is the inherent lack of motivation, and it is a huge problem for most people. This is why I believe that humanity's purpose should be identifying what drives us. Motivation can have a very significant impact on all individuals, and the level of it for someone can greatly influence many aspects of their lives. These aspects could include their relationships, their income, their success, or many other possible things that people find important. If someone is motivated to do something, then they would be much more likely to actually succeed in that task. Overall, I believe that everyone would agree with me if I said that motivation and finding out more about our own motivation or someone's motivation could be highly beneficial, as it could make any task significantly easier. I believe that this topic, the topic of motivation, is such an important one for humanity that examining it, even in the case of a very small and specific group, could be good for us. This specific group, in my case, will be Hungarian adolescent athletes. I chose this group because I feel that since sport is so close to me, or at least was at one point, that this is the one that I should be examining. I will conduct a sports psychology-related research on Hungarian adolescent athletes using the SMS-6, or the Sport Motivation Scale. This scale measures the extrinsic motivation, the intrinsic motivation, and the amotivation of all athletes. Extrinsic motivation is related to external rewards such as money or grades, or in the case of athletes, possibly like positive feedback from coaches or even teammates. Intrinsic motivation is, well, it comes from the enjoyment of a task. And finally, amotivation, as I previously explained, is the inherent lack of motivation. So, as I was saying, I will be using the SMS-6 to see all of these three types of motivations for Hungarian adolescent athletes. I will be grouping these athletes into, well, 4 groups: competitive versus recreational athletes, and team versus individual sports, or at least athletes who do these kind of sports. And I will be seeing how these groups relate to the levels of different kinds of motivations on the scale. So, for example, I will be examining if competitive athletes really do score higher on the extrinsic motivational scale than recreational athletes do, due to the inherent difference in the nature of the two kinds of sports. Overall, by doing this research, I will be making a step closer to understanding the topic of motivation, and with that, we will be a bit closer to being able to identify what drives us. Now, I would like to ask everyone to, here or at home, to scan the QR code that you got on the pamphlets, and it will take you to a website where you can write in your own email address. Only I will see it, but I will be able to send the questionnaire, like when it's done, I will be able to send it out to you. And if you fall into the Hungarian adolescent athletes category, then I would like you to fill it out when I send it to you. But if you don't, then I would really appreciate it if you could send it to those of you who know adolescent athletes. And yeah. Thank you.